Readiness is not a feeling, it's a decision. And making the actual decision to do something, because if you're basing things based on just emotion and feelings are fleeting.
Big fucking dreams. All right then. You got this.
Hey, big fucking dreamers. So pumped to be here with you today. It feels like I haven't recorded in a really long time. In reality, I probably recorded 3 weeks ago. But I'm so happy to be live with you guys, to be chatting with you guys, and some personal updates, which really brings me to the topic of this episode, which is start before you're ready. And about a few months ago, I was approached by the Daily Telegraph, and it came about so serendipitously, which my jingle maker, which Hannah Hotline sponsored by. So Dominique English, she's a listener. She's a big fucking dreamer. So hey, Dom, if you're listening. So my jingle maker, who you guys will have heard all of the amazing big fucking dreams, the harmonies that she does, also the intro for Hannah Hotline. She's a brilliant musician and creative and also a mentor to me and a different area, but her husband is actually the editor of the Daily Telegraph, and she showed him the jingle that she made for Hannah Hotline, and he was like, "What is this?" Because obviously Hannah Hotline, the jingle is so fucking amazing, and he was like, "Actually, we're looking for a Hannah Hotline." So they asked me to send over some specs and long story short, then now I am a new columnist in the Daily Telegraph. So Hannah Hotline will be appearing every other week. So I urge you guys to subscribe, support the show. This was like such a big turning point in my career, and also something that I had always hoped and dreamed of. And I've known that in my ideal life, I absolutely love coaching. I love presenting in groups, but a huge part of what I do is I do a lot of public speaking engagements. I go into corporates, and I've always seen myself as becoming a bit more of a media personality, of being a speaker, of being someone who writes books and of course does coaching, but I never fully saw coaching as the main thing that I do. I more saw coaching as a vehicle to enable me to do other things and to talk about what really mattered through the coaching techniques and through the transformations that I've seen. So when I was approached by the Daily Telegraph, this was a moment where I was just like, holy shit, it's happening. Like, it's starting to fucking happen. This is what I want. I knew that this year I had actually put in my visions that I was going to go after some sort of media deal. So I knew that in 2026, I wanted to partner with a platform and either host a podcast for them. So the interesting thing is I was actually about to start undergoing this process of reaching out to different outlets and seeing if I could either host a podcast on their network or if I could be a columnist or, whatever it is. And so serendipitously, all this stuff just kind of happened, which honestly is a moment in my ideal life. And this is the real vision for myself. In the first exercise of the life and work transformation, my signature program, I take clients through a method where I have them imagine an ordinary day in their ideal life. Then I always say at the end, send me a text, send me a DM, write me an email when it comes true, because it will come true. If you're putting intention out there and if you're doing the things that we practice in the program, your life will begin to change and unfold in ways that you can never imagine. So it's so cool that my ideal life is starting to come true, and all of the work that I practice with clients and I practice on myself, because of course, any of the methods that I teach, I also do. So very excited. That whole segment is going to be in the show notes as well. Definitely subscribe to the Daily Telegraph. Definitely read the article, support. And the thing that we're going to be talking today about is starting before you're ready. Interesting, like the story I just spoke about, there wasn't really a point where I was like, I'm not ready for this. I didn't really have imposter syndrome. Right as I was about to turn the first column into the editor, I was kind of like, ooh, am I actually doing this? Do I need more qualification? Am I the one to be talking about this? And then I looked over the article and I looked over my resume and what I've done, and I thought, no, I am fucking qualified to do this. Why would what more qualification would I need? This is what I do all day, every day, which is coach people and help people. But sometimes people come to me and they will often say like, Especially, and I love this, but when people say to me, if they're thinking about joining coaching and they say, I'm gonna join when things start calming down. And I'm like, I know what your job is, as if things are ever gonna fucking calm down for you. And we're gonna talk through today about really saying yes to things and starting before you're ready. So this is gonna be really relevant if you feel, especially if you have strong perfectionistic qualities and you feel like you always have to know every single thing, or maybe you have to do another course or speak to another person or have someone else read over your email, or you feel like there's kind of an anxiety beneath you about doing things and taking big leaps. So this could be relevant also if you're really transitioning into another phase of life, whether that be moving countries, whether that be thinking of starting a family, whether that be getting married or about to get engaged, or maybe you're even dating someone new and about to take the next step, move in with them, and you don't feel like you're ready for things, but you know that you want to move forward in your life. So, really, what I see here is that, readiness is not a feeling, it's a decision. And making the actual decision to do something, because if you're basing things based on just emotion and feelings are fleeting. And you could wake up, especially if you're a woman, given our hormonal cycles, if you are in your luteal phase a few weeks before your period, when are you ever going to be ready? You're just going to be like gremlin who doesn't want to do anything but sit on the couch and watch Bridgerton. And I say this from experience. So if you're basing these big decisions based on when you feel like doing something, you're likely never going to build up the momentum to actually do things. So the way that you really get readiness, and this is so true, especially for building confidence. And if you're someone that's like, I want to be more confident, I want to experience more confidence in my daily life, but I feel like I either have an imposter syndrome or I feel like I don't have the skills, whatever it is, doing something over and over is what actually builds the confidence, is what makes readiness. So you're never ready to do something, but by doing it, that makes you ready. So it's almost like a catch-22 in that if you want to get the readiness and if you want to get the feeling of competence, you actually have to do the thing. So very similar to, having a child. Not that I have a child, but I hear this a lot from people I coach or from my friends where no one's really ready to have a child because they've never done it before. And I was talking to a friend, one of my good friends back in California, and she was saying to me that her daughter was, just like crying a lot and she couldn't figure it out why. And she was up all night and her husband were just like frantically searching for answers, and they were doing all these things and thinking maybe she was teething and trying to give her soothing teething toys. And then the daycare center said to her, I think actually she just needs a few more bottles per day. Like, I think that she's just hungry. And they gave her a few more bottles. She slept. And my friend was just like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. I can't believe that I didn't know to do that. But if she has a next child, she will probably know how to do that. So you only get ready by experience and doing things. How would she have known that given that she's a first-time mother? And she was like, sometimes the things are actually the most simple. So getting out, doing the thing, you might not be ready to give a big public speaking engagement in front of your organization, but you really want to become a great public speaker. The only way to get better at it is to actually try versus just sitting there and saying, I will wait until I feel good enough, or I will wait until I feel ready enough. Because if you're waiting, you're likely not going to. A lot of people often will wait until things calm down. They'll wait until a certain period of life where things, in magical never land, where things are calm. I always advise against this, especially it depends on the type of job that you have. So if you have a job that is classified as what's called a greedy job, so a job that demands extreme time, effort, energy, and that is just the output of your job. It has been like that, this. So this is really similar in consulting. This is if you work in legal, if you work in law, if you work in finance, or even if you work in sales, depending on the type of sales role, depending like the time and quarter, depending on your quota. If you have a job that is extremely demanding and you're waiting until things calm down, that is likely never going to come. So you are just building a trap within yourself to wait to move forward in your life, just waiting for this time where your job magically becomes a job that it isn't. So whenever someone says, I'm waiting to do coaching, or I'm waiting to, take an art class, when things calm down is a huge trigger. then I say, well, when have things calmed down in the past few years? When are things not busy for you? Has that ever been a time? Of course, there are ways that you can, mitigate your schedule and look at, okay, I'm doing kind of one thing at a time. But if your job is the main thing that you're waiting for things to calm down, I would actually ask yourself to do a reflection and say, when has this been calm? I don't know if that's ever going to come. So another thing to realize is that we are really wired to stay away from social humiliation and threat. So if you are taking something, if you're doing something that is inherently risky, or you may have to put yourself out there in a different way, starting a business is a really good example where you might have to start posting on social media, but you're constantly afraid of starting a business because the message in your head is, what will my colleagues think? So we almost keep ourselves safe and keep ourselves stopping from moving forward because we don't want to risk looking stupid. We don't want to risk humiliation because that could be so threatening to our system. And we ultimately don't want to be kicked out of the quote unquote tribe. So really seeing like, what is the motivation? How can I just take one step forward? And what's one little thing that I can do so that I can become more ready and become a person who does it? And then we also have to look at, what's the identity that you are assuming? So for me, I really have an identity of someone who likes to do hard things. And I like to do things that other people can't do. I think this is like, I've been sober for, 8.5 years. I've given up alcohol. I don't eat gluten. I don't drink caffeine, or I don't drink caffeine. I don't eat sugar, but that has been touch and go over the past few years. But really, I like try not to eat sugar at all. And I have my own business. Being in business is inherently risky, but I have built an identity as I do hard things and I do things that other people can't do. And I write, working on a novel. Writing a novel is really hard. A lot of people do want to write novels, but not everyone can. So what is the identity that you want to assume? And then how can you look at actions and behaviors that really support the identity? So do you want the identity of someone who stays safe, of someone who doesn't take risks? And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're like, you know what? I actually am very risk averse, or I'm the person who likes to really know every single thing about something before I move forward, then totally do that. But just understand, what is the type of identity that you're assuming. And also, do you want to proactively change your identity, which you 100% can do? Then what are the actions and behaviors of someone who has the identity that you want? So for example, for me, I want the identity of someone who can do very hard things that not a lot of people can do. I have like a terminal uniqueness complex where I really want to be a unique, special snowflake. Well, what are the actions and behaviors that I'm going to be taking? So how can you really prime yourself to become ready for things even before you might be actually quote unquote ready? So here are a few simple things you can do. So one is like, actually write out the invisible criteria that you have. Sometimes clients will come to me and they'll say things like, oh, well, I'm just not quite ready to do this yet. And I'm like, well, when will you be ready? What are the actual causes and conditions for this? I had a client that was about to undergo IVF, and she said that, she wasn't quite ready for the next step. And I said, well, when will that be? What's going to make you ready? And she realized that she had this invisible script running that she hadn't really said out loud to herself or her husband. And after she told it to me, I said, okay, great. Now you really know what you're waiting for. And then she was able to then take that to her husband and her doctor. So really looking at, is it that I will be ready to do this when I have X number of dollars saved? Is it that when I, feel really confident? Okay, well, if you're waiting to feel confident, what exactly is going to make you feel confident? So really drill down until you get something that is tangible and specific. So the next thing is looking at, what are the different avenues that you can take? So I really love, this is from Dave Evans and Bill Burnett, the two Stanford professors. I do this exercise with my clients where I have them look at 3 possible frameworks or 3 different ways that their life could go. So what you want to do is you want to map out, okay, what would your life be like if it was just exactly on the same trajectory? So let's say you work in corporate, maybe you work in sales or you're in leadership, or like, what would life be like if it was just the exact same? What would it look like 5 years from now? So that's option one. Then option two is, what would a life look like of something that you really want to do? So let's say you want to be in leadership, or maybe you want to start your own business, or maybe you want to switch industries. Then let's map out what that would look like. What would that look like in 5 years? What are the causes and conditions you need for that? And then the third thing is mapping out a total wild card. And the wild card could be something like, I want to be a fantasy novelist, or I had a client who said, I actually want to be a children's illustrator, or, I want to open a breathwork retreat, or I want to open a button shop. I don't know, whatever the fuck it is. And just like, you want something really wild to get you in out of the box thinking. For me, it's really always been like, I want to be a novelist. I want to be a fiction novelist. Right now, I've got one novel. I have an outline for my second novel. I also would love to write a fantasy novel as well someday. So we'll see about that. I also want to write a nonfiction novel. I feel like I've got 10 books in me. But another wild card idea is like, I would also love to go back to school and study therapy. I would also love to get my PhD in creative writing. So I kind of have all of these ideas and all these different paths that I want to do. My husband and I are swing dancers and go to swing dancing competitions, whatever it is. So you want to look at what are these three distinct paths, and then you want to prototype for them. So what does that mean? That means what is the smallest test you can take? Who does that? So if you look at option A, which is okay, you're on the same trajectory. Look at the people above you. Look at the people 2 levels above you. Do you want to be them? Do you want to be in their positions? If that makes you just shrink and crumble and cry inside, I know for me, when I was in corporate and I looked a few steps above, I was like, oh my fucking God, that is not what I want for my life. I want to be I wanted to be doing what I was doing now. And I was just like, okay, I don't want that. If you look at what the second phase is, which is something different, who is doing that? How can you begin to just have informational meetings with them and say, what does it look like day to day? What's actually behind this? When I was leaving corporate, I thought that I wanted to go into organizational psychology. So I met with someone, I knew a friend who knew an organizational psychologist. I met with him. And then I was like, okay, actually, that sounds like it fucking sucks. I don't want to do that at all. I mean, I'm sure some people love it. That's fine. But I was like, I don't want to do that at all. And it was great because then I didn't do it. I didn't waste my time going to, signing up for a master's degree or getting 2 modules into some sort of education system of something that I didn't want to do because I had the conversation. And what I see a lot is that people they have these dreams, and maybe it's, I want to start a podcast, or I want to, start a clothing company, but they don't actually go out and talk to anyone that's doing it. So this is, if you want to, start before you're ready, go and see who is doing this. What are they doing? How do they feel about it? What advice do they have? How can I get them to tell me, can they help me in any way? So once you do that, then you're actually able to get more information there. So you're actually able to see realistically, what does it take to do this? So in closing, looking at, the real question is also what are you optimizing for in this time in your life? Is it safety, or is it adventure? Is it starting over? And getting super clear on, what is this phase of life? What is it that you really want out of it? And how can you intentionally start making choices? And if you're looking at this next phase of life and you're thinking, okay, this is a phase of life where maybe I want to work on myself, do some deep inner work. I want to accept myself as I am. I want to respect the choices that I'm making. And I want to really create a career that is healthy and that sustains me and that's nourishing. The next round of the Life and Work Transformation starts in April. We do all of those things. I urge you, if you feel like you want to make a lasting change in your life, or you really want to feel good about your life and your career, Life and Work Transformation is definitely the place to do that. There is more information in the show notes. You can find that on my website. So that's it, big fucking dreamers. So pumped to be here with you today, and I will see you next week.
Big fucking dream.